Welcome Morningstar peeps to another illuminating video.
Chapter 1. The Birth Gambit, a Trickster's Confession. From the moment consciousness stirred in Maya's womb, I was already scheming. Zeus thought he was having another casual affair, sneaking to that cave on Cyllene while Hera slept. The old fool had no idea he was being played by an unborn mastermind who had already mapped out his entire ascension strategy. See, I knew the game before I entered it. 12 Olympian seats, 11 already filled with Zeus's legitimate children and carefully chosen allies. One slot remaining, one chance for an upstart trickster to claim divine authority. But how does a bastard baby born in a cave compete with established gods who built their power through millennia? Simple. You don't compete. You redefine the game. While floating in amniotic fluid, I studied the system. Apollo, golden boy, daddy's favorite, controller of prophecy and music. Hera's hatred for Zeus's bastards meant no direct path through family politics. The other gods saw newcomers as threats to their domains. Traditional power plays wouldn't work. So I designed something unprecedented. A con so elegant, so perfectly orchestrated, that my victims would beg to give me what I wanted. The theft of Apollo's cattle wasn't impulsive mischief. It was the opening move in a chess game I'd been planning since conception. Every instinctive action you'll witness was rehearsed in utero. The tortoiseshell liar calculated. The backwards cattle tracks, strategic misdirection. The innocent baby act before Zeus, Academy Award-worthy performance art. They call me the god of thieves, but that misses the point entirely. I'm the god of systems hacking, finding exploits in reality's code, turning the very rules that should exclude me into weapons of inclusion. The real theft wasn't Apollo's cattle. It was the theft of inevitability itself. Maya thought she was hiding from the gods. In reality, she was incubating the greatest infiltration operation in cosmic history. That cave wasn't my nursery. It was my war room, my laboratory, my launching pad into immortality. By dawn, everything changes. Watch closely. Class is in Chapter 2, The Great Escape. Swaddling clothes were never going to hold me. You want to know the moment I knew I had them all fooled? When Maya wrapped me in those adorable little swaddling clothes, cooing about her precious baby who needed protection from the big, scary world. Protection. I was the scary thing the world needed protection from, but I let her believe it. Rule number 1 of advanced trickery: let your marks think they understand the situation. Maya saw a helpless infant. I saw the perfect cover story. What threat could possibly emerge from something so small, so new, so dependent? The winnowing basket cradle was a nice touch, humble, rustic, thoroughly non-threatening. While she watched over her sleeping baby, I was actually conducting final surveillance, memorizing every sound, every rhythm, mapping the precise timing of her rest cycles. Mortals think divine babies need months to develop basic motor skills. Adorable misconception. I was born with full consciousness, complete muscular control, and a burning desire to begin phase 1 immediately. But patience, Hermes, let them underestimate. Underestimation is the trickster's greatest advantage. The moment Maya's breathing shifted into deep sleep, I struck. Those swaddling clothes, child's play, literally. The physics of cloth bindings versus divine determination wasn't even close to a fair contest. I unwrapped myself like a birthday present to the world, silent as shadow, smooth as silk. Standing on divine legs that had never officially walked, I felt the electric thrill of the con beginning in earnest. Every step toward that cave entrance was a step toward immortality, toward power, toward proving that intelligence beats birthright every single time. The outside world greeted me with cool mountain air and infinite possibility. No guards, no supervision, no divine babysitters, just pure freedom and a universe that had no idea what had just been unleashed upon it. Direction, Purea, target, Apollo's sacred cattle. Objective, create chaos so compelling, so audacious, so unprecedented that Zeus himself would have to pay attention to his newest son. As I walked through that first night, each footstep was a declaration of war against the established order. The old gods gained power through inheritance, through political marriage, through centuries of careful positioning. I was going to take mine in a single evening through pure, audacious brilliance. Behind me, Maya slept peacefully, dreaming of her quiet life and her safe, hidden baby. Poor thing had no idea she'd just given birth to the future god of boundaries, and that the first boundary I was crossing was the one between helpless infant and cosmic force of nature. The cattle were waiting. Apollo. The stage was set. Chapter 3, The Tortoise Gambit, How to Turn Murder into Music. They'll tell you I discovered the tortoise by accident. That inspiration struck randomly. Adorable mythology. I'd been tracking that particular tortoise for 20 minutes, studying its shell geometry, calculating resonance possibilities, and waiting for the perfect dramatic moment. What have we here? I said aloud as if genuinely surprised. Even when you're alone, practice your performance. The universe is always watching, and authenticity is just method acting taken to its logical extreme. The tortoise looked up at me with those ancient, patient eyes. You will help me become a god, I informed it politely. Your sacrifice will echo through eternity in the most beautiful music ever created. I'm offering you immortality through transformation. Most mortals never get such an opportunity. Did it understand irrelevant? Consent is a luxury for creatures who have choices. The tortoise's destiny was already written the moment I needed its shell for my grand design. One quick motion, merciful, efficient, professional. No unnecessary suffering, just the surgical precision required to separate a soul from its housing. The shell came free like a gift unwrapping itself, perfect curvature intact, resonance chamber ready for its evolutionary upgrade. Now came the artistry. 7 sheep gut strings, because 7 is sacred to Apollo, a detail he'd noticed subconsciously, even if consciously he remained focused on his stolen cattle. Every element of this con was designed for maximum psychological impact. Stretching the strings across that hollow shell, I felt the moment when mere materials became something transcendent. The first tentative pluck produced a sound that made the mountains pause, a note so pure it seemed to reorganize reality around its vibration. But here's what they never tell you about that moment. I didn't just invent the lyre. I invented the concept of trading up. This instrument wasn't the goal. It was the bait, the hook, the irresistible offer that would force Apollo to negotiate from a position of desire rather than authority. See, I could have just stolen something from Apollo and ransomed it back. Crude, expected, ultimately powerless because it positions you as a common criminal. Instead, I created something Apollo had never seen, but would instantly recognize as essential to his divine nature. The tortoise became a lyre. The lyre became a trap. The trap became an invitation to the most elegant con in mythological history. As I held my creation, testing its voice against the morning air, I smiled at the beautiful irony. I just murdered a creature of earth and silence to birth an instrument of heaven and song. From death, life, from ending, beginning, from matter, meaning. Apollo had no idea what was coming for him. Poor Golden Boy was about to discover that his baby brother didn't just play games, I was the game, and I just dealt myself a royal flush with a deck he didn't even know existed. The lyre sang its first song, The Sound of Inevitability. Chapter 4, The Cattle Con, Grand Theft, Apollo. 50 sacred cattle grazing peacefully in Pieria under the protection of the god of prophecy himself. Beautiful, valuable, and most importantly, impossible to steal without consequences. Perfect target for someone who wanted those consequences more than the cattle themselves. Apollo's herd wasn't just livestock. It was a symbol of divine order, celestial authority, the established power structure made manifest in flesh and hide. Stealing them wasn't theft. It was revolution disguised as mischief, political upheaval wrapped in the innocent chaos of a newborn's prank. I approached those cattle like a general surveying a battlefield. Each animal represented a different strategic element. Publicity, you can't hide 50 missing cows. Legitimacy, they belong to a major Olympian. And inevitability, Apollo would have to respond, creating the confrontation I needed. But the real genius wasn't in the stealing. It was in the method. Anyone can rustle cattle. I was going to rustle cattle in a way that would become legendary, a masterclass in misdirection that would echo through every criminal endeavor afterward. First, the backwards tracks. While the cattle walked forward toward their new hiding place, I made their hoof prints suggest they'd traveled in the opposite direction. Basic psychological warfare. Make your enemy waste time searching where you've never been while you consolidate your position where they'd never think to look. Second, the woven reed sandals. No divine footprints leading to or from the scene. Let Apollo's investigative team wonder how 50 cattle moved themselves without human, or in this case, divine intervention. Mystery breeds fear, and fear breeds respect. Third, the ritual sacrifice. Here's where most thieves fail. They take and run. I took, shared, and elevated. 2 cattle became offerings to the 12 Olympians, cleverly including myself in that count, establishing my divine credentials through the very act of theft. Pinning their hides to the rocks wasn't casual disposal, it was signature. Hermes was here. Hermes did this. Hermes is powerful enough to steal Apollo's sacred cattle and confident enough to advertise the fact. The remaining 48 cattle disappeared into my hidden grotto, like coins vanishing into a magician's sleeve. Safe, secure, and completely irrelevant to the actual purpose of this operation. I didn't want to keep them, I wanted to be seen taking them. By dawn, Apollo would wake to discover his perfectly ordered world had been chaosized by an infant he'd never heard of. He'd rage, investigate, follow false leads, waste time and energy and dignity chasing shadows. And then, the beautiful moment when all that frustrated energy would be redirected into our inevitable confrontation, where a god of prophecy would meet a god of possibilities, where the old certainties would crash into new variables. I looked back at my work. 50 cattle vanished, tracks leading nowhere, evidence pointing everywhere, and one baby god standing at the center of a cosmic mystery that would reshape the very nature of divine politics. Phase 2. Complete. Time to go home and practice my innocent face. Apollo, darling brother, your... Chapter 5th. The Performance, Oscar-Worthy Innocence. Before the Skyfather, picture this. Apollo, god of truth and prophecy, standing before Zeus in a towering rage, demanding justice against an infant who claimed to have been born yesterday and couldn't possibly know what cattle were, let alone steal 50 of them. Zeus looked from his golden son to his youngest son, me, wrapped in swaddling clothes, gazing up with the wide, innocent eyes of a creature barely 24 hours old. The cosmic tension was exquisite. Father, Apollo thundered, This baby has committed grand theft against a major Olympian. He must be punished. I blinked slowly, tilted my head with perfect confusion, and delivered the line I'd been rehearsing since conception. Cattle? What are cattle? I was born yesterday. I don't even know what these mooing things are. The pause before mooing was calculated, just long enough to suggest I was genuinely struggling to remember the word for the sound cattle make. Amateur actors oversell. Masters know that less is more, that the most convincing lie is wrapped around a kernel of truth. Zeus's eyes narrowed. He hadn't become king of the gods by being gullible. But here's what I was counting on: his sense of cosmic humor. Zeus appreciated cleverness, audacity, the beautiful moment when established order gets creatively disrupted. "Show me your hands," Zeus commanded. I held up my baby hands, pink and soft and obviously designed for nothing more dangerous than thumb-sucking. "These hands, Father? These hands that can barely hold a rattle? You think these hands stole Apollo's sacred herd?" The beauty of this moment, I wasn't technically lying. My hands hadn't done the stealing, my mind had. My hands were just the tools. The crime was intellectual, not physical. And intellectual crimes require intellectual punishment, which requires intellectual acknowledgement, which means acknowledging my intelligence, which means acknowledging my threat level, which means acknowledging my power. Apollo began listing evidence: the backwards tracks, the ritual sacrifice, the woven sandals. Each detail more sophisticated than any day-old infant should be capable of conceiving, let alone executing. "Fascinating," I murmured, eyes wide with apparent wonder. "Someone did all that? How clever." I wish I could meet this mysterious cattle stealer. I bet we'd be friends. Zeus began to smile. Not the angry smile of a judge about to pronounce sentence, but the appreciative smile of a master recognizing a student who might actually surpass the teacher. "Very well," Zeus said finally. "Apollo, take your brother to recover your cattle." But his eyes twinkled with dangerous amusement. "Let's see how this plays out." That was the moment I knew I had him. Zeus wasn't treating this as a crime to be punished, but as entertainment to be enjoyed. He wanted to see what would happen when irresistible force met immovable object, when prophecy confronted possibility. As Apollo grudgingly led me toward Pylos, I mentally prepared for Phase 3, the musical seduction that would transform my enemy into my collaborator. The performance was over, the real show was about to... Chapter Good deal, brother. Chapter 7. The Grand Exchange. Trading music for immortal authority. Brother, I said, letting the word hang in the air like honey between us. I can see this little instrument means something to you. Apollo nodded eagerly, his earlier fury now completely transformed into desperate desire. The lyre continued its song in my hands, each note a golden thread binding his consciousness to my will. I continued thoughtfully, it's just a dead turtle with some sheep gut stretched across it. Nothing compared to your magnificent cattle, your divine authority, your, what did Zeus call it? Your sacred herd? The lyre, Apollo said urgently. What do you want for the lyre? The beautiful moment when your mark asks the crucial question. Not, will you give me the lyre? But what do you want for it? He'd already accepted the transaction. Now we were just negotiating terms. Well, I mused. I suppose we could make a trade. The lyre for, what would be fair? Your cattle seem nice. Yes, the cattle. All of them. I pretended to consider this, while mentally celebrating. He was offering me exactly what I'd stolen, but now it would be a gift rather than theft. Legal ownership instead of criminal possession, but why stop there? Actually, I said slowly, cattle are lovely, but there's so much work, aren't they? All that feeding and herding and mooing. I'm just a baby after all. I wouldn't know how to care for sacred cattle properly. Apollo's face fell. I could see him calculating desperately, trying to find something, anything, that would convince me to part with the instrument that had redefined his understanding of his own domain. What then? He asked. What would you want instead? Well, I let my voice trail off, gazing up at him with wide, innocent eyes. You're a god, aren't you? A real, official, important god with actual divine responsibilities? He nodded. I bet Father gives you important jobs. Special tasks, sacred duties. I sighed wistfully. That must be wonderful, having a purpose, having a place in the cosmic order. Hermes, Apollo said urgently, understanding flooding his features. You want divine appointment? I blinked as if the idea had never occurred to me. Could someone like me, someone born yesterday in a cave, could someone like me become an actual god? With real responsibilities? The negotiation shifted into its final phase. Apollo wasn't just buying a musical instrument anymore, he was investing in a partnership. The lyre for the cattle, yes, but more. Divine recognition, official appointment, the herald's staff that would make me Zeus's messenger and grant me access to every realm, every secret, every center of power in existence. The caduceus, Apollo said finally, pulling out his golden staff. This makes its bearer the official herald of the gods. Messenger mediator, bridge between worlds. I looked at the staff, winged, serpent-wrapped, humming with authority, then at the lyre in my hands. That seems like rather a lot for just a little music, I said doubtfully. Please. The word escaped Apollo like a prayer. I smiled and held out the lyre. As his hands closed around it, I took the caduceus, feeling